Michael E. Parker here, and we are on YouTube. And I know that some of you that will catch this, you will actually begin to hear a discussion about something that is really, really important. And we're talking about the specific things that you need to stop actually thinking like about money. So what are the things that I have to stop thinking about money to be more successful as an entrepreneur? And, you know, we really have a struggle in terms of entrepreneurs being able to be more successful at selling what they're doing because they're not as focused and successful at investing in themselves. Now, we're going to talk about this, and I want you to understand that this is always a difficult topic because all of us want to succeed as entrepreneurs. We want to sell our products. We want to sell our services. We want to grow our business. But if we really want to do that, we have to make sure that we are really, really in tune with how we think about money. Now, believe it or not, all of us are affected by money. We're affected by our relationship with money, how we grew up when it comes to money and what types of things we saw or didn't see. And we have to acknowledge that we do have a relationship with money. And so when we're thinking about being an entrepreneur and actually being able to grow and to prosper, and we have to understand that we are impacted. We think about our pricing. We think about how we actually request and tell someone that we would like them to pay us. All these things cause us to feel different ways based on what we've went through and what we've experienced about money. So I want to be really clear that we have to take a step back before we can take a step forward to really be successful when it comes to thinking about what to do as think about it. I'm trying to get someone to give me money out of their pocket and so that I can actually provide them with a product or service. But for someone to take that money out of their pocket, why would they actually do that? Why would they actually, risk that? It's not an easy thing to get money, to get resources. So what would make you do that? Well, the first thing is before I could even make that request, I've got to be really at peace with my perspective of self and with respect to money. Now, I'm going to go to my whiteboard for just a minute, and I want you to think for a minute about, when we think about just different things that we can actually face as entrepreneurs. Now, we can actually, a lot of times when we're thinking about, trying to talk to someone about, what I want to do with my product, what I want to do with my service. Sometimes the thing that we don't realize is we actually come from different places. And when you're, growing up, the different people you saw, the different experiences you had, it can directly impact whether or not I feel like money is something that is easy to get or money is something hard to get. If money is something that I have to really work to get, or if money is something that is given, as long as I do that thing that is necessary, that people are willing to give it to me. It's not something that has to be, I have to push and I have to force. So I want you to think for a minute, if I was an individual and I grew up around certain types of thoughts, I heard, challenges, around money. So if I go here, I draw an individual here on my whiteboard. And if I heard, a lot of issues surrounding, not enough money, right? So maybe I witnessed what it feels like where, I'm always in a situation where there's not enough money. I saw a lot of issues struggling, whether it was mom, whether it was dad. And I saw that, it seemed like we didn't have enough when we needed it, right? If I was always seeing an environment of, let's call this, let's make a deal, right? And these are things that I can relate to where, you think about every time you saw money come up or, there's going to be an exchange of money, you saw people trying to make deals, right? To get something, you want to try to get more for less, like more for less, more for less, more for less, right? So, you have this, and all of us like a good deal, right? But imagine to be saturated with this thinking about more for less. Another thing I want you to consider is what if you felt that, you have seen situations in which money was lost, right? So let's say money loss. So the fear of seeing money be had and then seeing it be lost. right? So this is another feeling that you could have experienced where you saw some level of success that someone had, or times were good financially, and then everything was lost, right? So this generates a certain amount of fear, right? Because you say, man, if I ever get my hands on money, I don't want to lose it. I've seen what that looks like. And then think about for a minute that when you're thinking about different experiences that, someone may have, as you start to watch and you start to, look at how money might be used, especially when you're, going to do things and you're going to provide things, when you've seen maybe a lot of complaint, right? Let's say complaint about pricing. So you've witnessed a lot of complaint about pricing, right? So when you see this energy, like this is all you saw, right? This is how you came up. This is what you've seen. And now you become the entrepreneur. You become the person now that's actually providing the thing, right? You're the one providing the product. You're providing the service now. You're not the buyer now. You're the seller. Use the things, the gears have shifted. But how you think is directly impacting you, because now it's impacting how you actually feel about what you're selling and the extent to which you feel someone would buy it. So if you come from a certain mentality, right? So here I am, and if I'm in a circle of scarcity, right, or a circle of fear surrounding money, and then I say, now, how should I price my product? How should I price my service? What is the value, right, of what I'm doing? So if I'm evaluating those things, but I'm living in this circle, it becomes very difficult to do that the right way, okay? So this is a very important problem amongst entrepreneurs. As I work with entrepreneurs and I evaluate the things that they're doing, the services they're providing, it's very hard for them to be able to value themselves properly. It's very hard for them to think that with the true mindset of what is this actually worth? What should I be charging? And how do I actually allow someone to give me money in a way that is best for my business and not feel bad about it, right? So it's a challenge that when you think about, sometimes when people have to tell someone their pricing, they put their head down, or they say, but, if you do it this way, you get a deal. Before they can even tell someone what their pricing is, they're already trying to correct for it. They're already trying to cover it up because they feel bad about charging. They feel bad about saying, this is what my service is. This is what the product costs. They have these same feelings that they've seen others have. Now they're putting that on themselves, and they're assuming that the people they're talking to are just like them. And so they automatically have, this concern that the person's going to feel like the things that they've seen all their life. When it comes to evaluating, are they willing to give them money for the thing that they provide? Now, I want you to think for a minute that we need to change our perspective about all this. We cannot decide our pricing from a mindset of scarcity. We can't decide, the things that we do from a mindset of fear. We have to think differently about how we invest in ourselves. And that's really important, because when you invest in yourself, you start to understand there's a value that you have. So you have to be sure that you know your own value, and it starts with how you invest in yourself, to be clear about what you bring to the table. This is very important. I don't care if you're a coach, a consultant, a service provider, if you provide a trade, whatever you do, if you're doing something online, if you're doing something that is in the gig economy, whatever you do, you've got to make sure that you know your value. You've got to make sure you know your worth. You've got to make sure that you understand, exactly what you bring to the table. Now, if you're just coming here, we're talking about, thinking the right way about money. We're talking about why some entrepreneurs struggle to sell their value because they've not invested in themselves. Now, if you're just coming here in the midst of this session, make sure you subscribe, you like, you comment. Hit that notification bell to get all notifications for some of the videos we'll be releasing real soon. There's a lot of things we'll be talking about along lines like this and many other lines that'll help you, especially entrepreneurs. Now, I want you to consider for a minute, let's come back here to the whiteboard. And when you think about, imagine an individual, right? and, they've got some money here in their hand. And we got another individual here, and they got some money in their hand. Now, when you think about this, consider if I walked up and I have $100 and you have $100, and we both agree to exchange this with each other back and forth, okay? So what have we really done here? So I've given you $100, you've given me $100. At some point, and probably right at that moment, we'll realize, well, what is the whole point of this? What is the point of exchanging the exact same amount of money back and forth? It means absolutely nothing. No one's winning. These two people are the same as they were before coming in contact with each other. Neither one of them is any more wealthy. Neither one of them lost any money, right? So now, let me ask you something. If you're out there and you're listening to this, if I said I would give you $100, right? But now, think about this. I give $100 in exchange for $1,000. Now, how many of you would like that deal? Like, I give $100 and get $1,000 back, right? This is the whole concept of investing, right? I put in a certain amount to get more back. Now, what we're really saying here is the investment that I'm making compared to the value I receive, right? There is more value than the investment. Now, this is a different way of thinking. I want you to really think about this, that we want to make sure we have a different perspective about money, that money is about investment for value. Now, people get this when you're dealing with stock, you're dealing with real estate, but sometimes we don't get this about ourselves. We don't get this about our business. We don't get this about the service or the product or the offer that we're actually trying to give to the world. So when you change your perspective, not about thinking about I'm trying to get money from you, right, as an entrepreneur, but I'm trying to give enough value in exchange for the investment that you would give me. And when you think about things that way, it's very, very different. So I want you to consider that. If we look at this as the exchange of money for value, so let's think about that for a minute. We're talking about money being in exchange for value, right? Now, when you look at things that way and not looking at money as how much can I get someone to give me for a deal or for cheap, or how can I make sure and outdo someone in terms of what, I got for my money, right? When you come from that, then you'll think that way as an entrepreneur. When you start to shift your thinking to money for value, a whole new door opens up. If I'm giving enough value, right, then I don't feel bad about saying, here's the money you need to exchange to get this value, because I feel very strongly about the value that I'm providing. So it's very critical that we change our thinking in this regard, because we start to understand that when people give us money, it's not to give money for something that's the same, right? Remember the 100 for 100. Money is always about giving money because someone values something higher than they do the money that's in front of them, right? So whatever, it doesn't matter what this is. This can be $100. This could be $1,000. This could be $100,000. It all depends on the value that is on the other side of the equation. Now, I have to think differently about this. In order for me as an entrepreneur not to undervalue myself, I have to first make sure I've become the thing that is valuable, right? That's the first thing. So when I think about myself, or I should say when we think about ourselves, what we want to do is we want to continually invest value into ourselves, right? Now, how do we go about doing that, right? We're dealing with, we have to do things like taking the time to have the education, taking the time to learn, taking the time to reach levels of mastery, right, about a particular topic, making sure that we're willing to invest in ourselves. Now, this is what I was talking to you about on this particular session here, is I talked about why some entrepreneurs can't sell their product or service because they're not willing to invest in themselves. Now, if you don't invest in yourself enough to become the thing that is valuable, so that when you do offer a product or service, someone wants to give you money in exchange for your value. If you don't do that first, you can't just go out here and say, I want this and want that. You know, here's what I'm selling, here's what I'm offering. You must first invest in yourself. So some people, I'll give you an example here. Some people, let's take a product or a service. See, let's say it represents this box here. And whatever's in this box is what's in this box. Let's say this thing costs $1,000. Okay. Now, some of you out there, if you don't have a product yet, that's $1,000. And you know, you haven't thought about yourself or a product or something that you're doing as it relates to $1,000. Now, if you're a person with that thinking that I was talking about when I started off this session, right? You know, dealing with scarcity and fear, you know, deals, you know, you've come from this, that's all you saw. The minute that you think about a price like $1,000 per, you know, let's just say for some people, they right away start thinking about, I'm not sure if a customer would really be willing to spend that, right? And one of the reasons is you must first be willing to spend $1,000 on yourself for something. You must first be willing to spend money on yourself and invest in yourself to actually grow, because when you do that, you break some barriers down within yourself. See, some people aren't able to offer more higher value offers to people in products and services because they've never participated in that themselves. So they say, I want you to buy this from me, but when it's time for them to invest in themselves, they say, oh, I can't spend that much money to get that program or to get that learning or to get that certificate or to get, you know, to attend that event that's going to really help me. I don't spend that time. I'll try to surf around, you know, and see if I can discover. I'll Google something. I'll see if I can search around YouTube. I'll see if I can go over here and go over there and just stumble upon the lessons that I need. I'm not willing to invest in myself. So because I'm not willing to invest in myself, when it's time to sell something that is more premium, that same limited thinking that you have, it comes out in the way that you talk to people about what you're selling. You automatically, it's hard for you to say this thing costs $1,000. It's hard for you to say my product is worth this. It's hard for you to say that I am worth $10,000, whatever it might be, because you don't see yourself that way. And you don't behave that way. So you are not that person. So because you're not that person, you don't see yourself as the value that you want them to pay for. So you have to first become the thing, right? You have to become the value. You have to become the worth. You have to become the product. You have to become the service. When you know you've invested in yourself, when you know you are that thing, when you know you've arrived at that level of value, you won't feel bad to ask for that exchange, because you know you are giving them the value that is more than the money that they're giving you. So we have to be able to do that, right? So when we do things right, back to my whiteboard here, the value is always greater than the money, right? Or I'll even say this, the price, right? The money is greater than the price. I'm sorry, the value is greater than the price. So think about it. When you go to a restaurant, when you go to get something to eat, you are going to spend money for the value of a stomach that's full, right? So here's a big mistake that we make. I'm still talking to you as entrepreneurs, and sometimes there's a lot of you need to raise your prices for your products, your services. You need to stop undervaluing yourself. You need to stop being afraid to have other types of products and offers that surround what you do. There's different ways to offer services at different levels. And so, you know, that's not my subject today, but there's many levels of value that you can provide, right? There's many levels of services that you can give. And some of you have not fully open the door to all the things you could be charging for that people will pay you for because you actually have the value, but you don't see it, right? You don't understand it. And so when you really get to those different levels and you understand how to price things properly, you'll find out a lot of times I'm leaving money on the table because I didn't invest enough in myself to be able to offer and be better so that my service and product is better. And then even when I am better, I've got mental blocks on being able to tell you that this is $1,000. This is $10,000. This is $3,000. This is $500, right? Whatever it is. This has a monthly fee. And to feel good about what you're saying because you honestly know that you're given the value that is more than that price. Because people only give you money when they feel the value is higher, not equal, higher. So we say, well, I'm giving this because this is worth, I'm giving $10 because it's worth $10. No, you're always giving $10 because it's worth more than $10. You would never give up money to get the same thing back. You're always giving it because there's something more that you're getting back. That's our job as entrepreneurs, is to really help people to see the more that they're getting for the money that someone is giving them. And you can't do that until you change your perspective about money, your mindset about money, until you invest in yourself with your money, right? I remember, having to, take the leap. I know what it's like to buy a $20,000 program, right? To spend $50,000 on something to make my business better. Now think about that for a minute. If you've never done that and you're an entrepreneur, that sounds crazy to you. $10,000, $20,000 on my business, on myself as an entrepreneur to grow, that's insane. But that's only if you're still seeing it as just looking at the price. So let me explain something. So we talked about value and price, but now I want to talk to you about price versus cost. So this is another thing we have to really understand. This is a big thing where people make big mistakes as entrepreneurs. So I want you to get this. So I've got some glasses here that I wear. I wear them more when they're long distance, so hopefully y'all can see that there on YouTube there. So some nice glasses, and I had to go back and get my eyes tested, and I actually got a few more pairs of glasses that I want to get. Now, some of these glasses, you can spend hundreds of dollars, and even more on a nice pair of glasses if some of you know. But let's say some glasses cost $400, right? Let's say some nice glasses cost $400, right? And let me put some little glasses here. So let's say some glasses cost $400. Now, I want you to think about something though. The price is $400, but the cost is not $400. So sometimes when we think about ourselves and we think about what we're doing as an entrepreneur, what we're offering as an entrepreneur, we don't understand the difference between these two. When somebody says, what does it cost? That's a different question than what is the price. Let me say that again. When somebody asks me, what is the cost? That is very different than someone who asks, what is the price? The price is $400. The cost is the inability to see long distance. That's the cost for me to not have those glasses. I hope y'all can see that. The real cost is the inability to see long distance. Now, when I compare this value to $400, that's a whole different way of looking at things, isn't it? Now, you have to understand that, what I just went over in this analogy. You've got to understand as an entrepreneur, what is the cost of someone not having your service, not having your product? You can't come from scarcity of what people want to pay and what they don't want to pay, and that's too high. People, they're going to think this is too high or that's too this. You got to come from the standpoint of I know my worth. The cost of not having my product, the cost of not having my service is bigger than the price, right? So you want to understand that because you exist, because your product exists, because your service exists, what is the true cost of not having you? And make sure that your price is really less than that cost and then you help them to see the value and the true cost of not actually having your product or service. And it is the great entrepreneurs, right? They're able to help someone see the distinction between the price and the true cost, right? The true cost. So this is what we want to really gather. We want to understand that we have to first. So what have we learned here? Let's summarize a few things that we've learned here. So we've learned that, number one, we have to be delivered from any scarcity and fear that may come from our past or experiences that we've seen, right? Now, I want you to think about as an entrepreneur, do you consider yourself a cheap individual? Are you a person that likes deals? Nothing wrong with a good deal. We all like deals. I like deals. But is that how you come across as a person? Is that your makeup? Have you ever reevaluated that maybe, I need to get a little dangerous and start investing in myself a little bit more? And some of you don't realize it. You're trying to grow a business, and I want you to think about how far have you got? If you're that mindset, you always want a deal, you feel like you're more cheap, you always feel you don't have enough, you're afraid to spend money on something that's of value. I want you to probably notice that you're probably not getting a lot of people spending money with you either. I want you to think about that for a minute because there's a direct relationship. And it's really hard to explain this, and to really fully make sure someone gets this. And I had to go through a lot of things myself because I come from that as well. I saw the scarcity, the fear. I've seen, a lot of challenges growing up. And sometimes, that initial reaction when you see the cost or the price of something, you don't understand the cost of not having it. And to transition, I had to transition as an entrepreneur at times to say, you know what, if I want more value, I have to be willing to invest more money. I've got to invest in myself. And then when you begin to do that, you start learning how to attract that type of investment from others because you literally know how to express from a pure place what it means to invest and also the fear you had to do it. So that when people connect with that, they say, you know what, this is what I am able to do as well. So I see some of you talking about loving bargains and things, and that is really great. Nothing wrong with a bargain, nothing wrong with a deal, but you want to make sure you don't have a bargain personality that limits you from having premium support from customers. So you want to understand how to make even premium things be a bargain because it's a bargain to get this much value for $1,000, right? So you can still be someone who thinks about bargain, but you're thinking about bargain at a higher level, right? And this is very important because we understand the difference of value and the true cost versus price and the things that might block us there. Another thing we talked about is to understand that value, right, must be greater than price. So we have to know how to show that, right? And then we understand that price is not the cost, right? Cost is what I lose by not having the product or service. So this is really 3 key things I want you to take away and really understand is that we want to be delivered from scarcity and fear, right? So we have to get our thinking different about money, that money is not always, doesn't have to be viewed as something that I don't want it to be taken away from me. I don't want it. I'm afraid to lose it. I'm afraid of, all the fear comes up about money. I'm afraid to spend it. I'm afraid to charge for it. It's all in it. I'm afraid to price it too much because someone doesn't want it. It's like this fear place. We got to get out of that, right? And then we got to get into the thinking of value just must be greater than price. And it doesn't matter the price. The price could be $1 million. But what's the value, right? It depends on what that value is. And so when we get our mindset there, we're not thinking about deals and bargains and scarcity. We're thinking about how do I make sure I communicate the value for the price? That's where we want to be. When you start understanding how to do that without all of those blockages there, you open new doors of opportunity as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And then we understand how to talk about the true cost of your product or service, which is what a person will not have without your product or your service. And once you tap into explaining your value in your product and service in that way, your sales will go up, your conversions will go up, and you'll find that there's money you've been leaving on the table that now will end up in the bank. Right? And that's what we would like to see. And so I hope that you all enjoyed this. I want to remind you all again, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And please make sure that you hit that notification bell. And you might want to also say that you want all notifications to make sure you don't miss anything. When I'm going to be going live, make sure you also leave some comments. Now, some of you that are leaving live comments, on YouTube, that's a whole different world. So you get, the live comments are kept in a separate place. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you some homework. If you're a true entrepreneur, if you're listening to this, I want you to, when this video closes, to come back to this video, and I want you to leave some comments, and I want you to leave a comment about something that you got out of this session, but also something that you know that you could do, right? Something you can do with what you've learned to generate a new opportunity in your business. How can you apply this to something real right now? Whether you need to get going in repricing your product, whether you need to reevaluate the pricing of your services, whether you need to invest in things to increase your value, right? We talked about that. Whether you need to, relook at your approach to selling what you sell. Whatever that is, put something in the comments. So when this is over, come back here to this video and leave some comments. I would really appreciate that. I'm Michael E. Parker, and thank you so much once again for tuning in, and I'll see you on my next video.